Hello, hello. I am live. Welcome to the last word. You are viewing with your host, Tanisha. The last word is your space to be heard. And today we are talking about the cost of poverty. The cost of poverty experience is a popular, well, it's not, extremely popular amongst mainstream, but it is an experience that is popular among most charities across the nation. Okay, the cost of poverty experience is a simulation in which you are taking on the characters of stories of people who have experienced real life scenarios of poverty. The one that I attended here locally in Knoxville was hosted over this weekend at the Cedar Bluff Presbyterian Church, and I believe the Compassion Coalition was the ones who hosted it at that church. So don't quote me on that because I don't remember exactly their name and everything, so I could be wrong on that. But and I should have wrote it down, right? But I do want to talk about the experience and my experience with it. And of course, also, it was directed by the Restoration House. Okay, if you are not aware, the Restoration House is a single parent organization, nonprofit, faith based organization who supports single parents by providing them with transitional living, so that they can transition with their single parenting, as far as getting a job, having a place to stay, learning new skills, survival skills, learning how to budget, different things like that. Also, with just having that support, a support system. They also have housing on their property, where that the single parents are able to reside and live on the property to receive the help. The program is a 2-year program where they transition from the housing on the property into their own housing. So they learn how to budget, they get a job, they are, to pay for the housing. So it's not like free housing, but it is income based housing. So they do have to pay. And also, like I said, it's a faith based nonprofit organization. So the mission of Restoration House is to restore them to God's goodness for their life and God's plan for their life, basically. And that's hence, the Restoration House. But honestly and truly, most of the information, of course, I should have wrote everything down and did a lot more research. But like I have let everyone know, and those who are not new to my channel know that it's more of a laid back channel. So it's not formal. This is not a formal channel. If you do want more details, more, concrete facts about the Restoration House and what they do, you can look it up. Okay? Because I am only giving it from my perspective and my experience, and of course, just the knowledge that I know, from my experience and from being a part of the Restoration House myself, because I am a volunteer at the Restoration House, and I do enjoy being a volunteer and do enjoy being a part of the events that I am a part of. As a volunteer, there are some books that we do read, and two of those books, and they did recommend more books, but two of the books that they do want to make sure the volunteers do read for a fact is When Helping Hurts. You want to look that up if you're interested, of course. And then, of course, Toxic Charity. And Brian Ficker is one of the authors, and I forget the other author off the top of my head, but both books I have read, and they were, awesome books when it comes to nonprofit organizations who are out in our nation trying to combat poverty. They even in one of the books talks about experiences in Africa, like mission trips and different things like that, and how poverty all over the world is just a phenomenon that most charities and organizations are having a tough time with with addressing and trying to combat and overcome different areas in our nation and across the world that are just poverty stricken, and also third world countries that are also poverty stricken as well. I think here in America, the poverty that we deal with is dependency on the infrastructure, just being dependent on the infrastructure. Like, we're not, if this infrastructure wasn't in place, like the cities, the grocery stores, the choices, everything that we have, even though we may not have the money to buy them, if that system was not in place, we wouldn't know how to grow our own food, or be able to bargain with one another, and different things like that, that some third world countries do know how to do. They at least know how to grow their own food, and bargain with one another and work together and different things like that, and come more together in a community. Versus in America, we if you struggling, you have maybe an organization or food shelter or food bank to go to, but maybe not someone in your community and not your neighbor. And I'm not saying that is the rule for everyone, right? Also, what I did want to mention in this discussion is the fact that I didn't need the poverty simulation, to understand poverty, or to, have what is considered a poverty experience. I didn't need that because I've already lived it. I don't think anyone needs the actual experience to understand it, in a sense that we, in your everyday life, no matter what color, what girl, boy, woman, child, young, old, rich, poor, at some point in your life, no matter what, if you're a human being on this earth, you have probably experienced poverty at some point, unless you're just born into a rich family, and that's different. And like I said, that's not the rule for every scenario and for every person, but it is exceptionally useful. The experience was exceptionally useful. Okay, like, it really is an eye opener for some who may have not experienced the poverty to the magnitude that some have. Like, I have experienced extreme poverty. Some people have only experienced maybe working class poverty, because to me, I feel like there's different levels to poverty as far as the type of poverty that you can experience. I suffered from materialistic poverty, as well as, that poverty or sense of poverty that comes from a spiritual aspect, where you feel hopeless, like that feeling of hopelessness. That kind of poverty, to me, that is deep poverty. Also, I'm in trouble again because I should have wrote down the definition that they gave at the COPE experience of poverty, where they simply mainly define poverty as a lack of resources in different areas, a lack of resources materialistic, a lack of resources spiritually, a lack of resources in different types of areas. And I think they had on that display, like, I think it was like 6 or 9 different areas where you could have a lack in every area, and that's the way that they defined poverty. And of course, you can look it up in a dictionary, but or you can research COPE. Like I said, I didn't do as well, but I'm just giving my experience from the top of my head. I didn't want to have to research and write all this stuff down, which I should have, and that probably would have made it more useful and more and better, just in case this is the only thing that you'll ever see about COPE. But you can research it. It's something that is done nationwide. I can let you know that. And it's something that the Restoration House does here locally for businesses, nonprofit organizations, and yes, it does cost. There is a price for the experience. Whether your private organization would like to have it done, or whether your church would like to have it done privately, they will come and host for a cost. And the cost, one way to be able to manage the cost is to make the individuals who are interested in attending the experience, to sell tickets for it. And the cost is worth it. And the reason why I say it's worth it is because the experience and the knowledge that you will gain from it, and not only that, is because it's going toward a good cause. The Restoration House housing single parents And not just single mothers. If you're a single parent, if you are a man that's a single parent, you can reach out to the Restoration House for the help that you feel you may need. So the cause and what they're doing, the money, whenever you pay for the experience or have that experience or have your church or organization or business to have that experience to allow them to come in, you would just contact Miss Lori Haskell. She is like the coordinator for the Restoration House. Well, she's probably more than that. She's like a director or something like that. But she's a very sweet person. You can just contact and connect with her and be able to go over details regarding the experience. But basically, now that I kind of did that and went through all that or whatnot, I want to just kind of tell you about the experience and, of course, kind of give you a little bit insight about the experience. The scenarios, as I mentioned earlier, are scenarios of live people. So, of course, I won't really disclose much about my scenario because out of respect for the people because the stories are live, or based on true lives of people. Okay. So, but each person is assigned to a family, and you are assigned to a family. You are given the family's names, and of course they didn't disclose real live names. Of course they disguised them with fake names, but it's real families and real scenarios, based on real families and real scenarios. But once you receive your assigned family, you get their scenario and their circumstance, whether the children may have a disability, the children may be juvenile, delinquent children. And, you may be a parent in a household that is a drunk or an addict. Different scenarios, real life scenarios, and you're assigned to that family. And once you're assigned to that family, you have, I believe it's 3 weeks that they gave, in the scenario of the 3 or 4 weeks, which is like a month, to accomplish the expenses in the household with the income and resources or lack thereof that you have in that scenario. And they give you each page and different things, whether you have a vehicle, whether you don't have a vehicle, whether your child is in school or daycare or not, whether they have to go to the doctor, what bills you have to pay. You may have loans to pay. You got to pay your electricity, your rent, and different things like that. And you have to go through this scenario. And then the weeks were set up and broken down into 15-minute increments. So the first week, of course, was 15 minutes. And the second week was 15 minutes. Okay. And so you have 15 minutes, which is, equivalent to a week, that you will have to get this. You have to do whatever it is that you need to do, whether you had a job or had to go to school. And they have different tables set up to whereas, okay, this table over here is the school. This table over here is where you work. This table over here is the county human resources. If you need help, this table over here is the faith-based community resource for different resources that you may need help with clothes. This is the pawn shop. You can go pawn something if you need extra cash, different things like that. So that was the scenario and the setup, and we did that for the weeks. We went through that, and then of course, at the end, of course, in my situation, in our situation, the partners that I was partnered with, which was two other people. So it was just a single family. Well, actually, it wasn't a single parent family. It was a married couple and a child. And that's all I disclosed about that. It's just that was my scenario that I was in. So it's 3 people in my family in the experience, in the simulation that I did. And we didn't even get to feed our daughter. I was like, I did not do well in this poverty experience. I did not do well. And really, that corresponds to real life, because there are some days that me and my son, we didn't have much to eat. And there are some days, even today, that we don't have much to eat. I mean, you understand, you have to go to work, go to school, get up, and you do that sometimes hungry. And so at the end, we were able to discuss. Everyone in the room was able to discuss their experiences, and they asked questions. Miss Lori Haskell did, the director of the Restoration House, of course, asked questions at the end. How did you feel? How were you able to cope what did you do in XYZ situation? Did anybody get evicted? Were you able to pay your rent? Were you able to pay, were you able to, and just different questions, and everybody in the group. And I think in that room it was like about, I think it was about 60 people in the room. So we had a nice, good crowd there. So, and it was just a great, great experience. And of course, I had mentioned, in the group discussion how sometimes, those who are in poverty are mistreated or are not treated fairly. Let me just say that, because in my experience, I tried to pawn, a ring I had, and I wasn't given the full value of the ring, because, on the things and the resources that we have, they tell you the value of it, right? So I tried to pawn it for the value of it and didn't get the full value. And how many times people in poverty or people who are not well off get taken advantage of, right? So, and then of course there was a week that I went to work and I didn't get my full pay because the employer made up some excuse saying that they didn't have enough money and didn't make enough money in their business, and they weren't able to pay me for the hours that I worked. So unfair treatment is like one of the running themes in the lives of people who are in poverty. And then I also had mentioned how, some of us in the room are just a paycheck away from poverty. You understand? And then another thing that came up in the topic of this group discussion that we were having at the end was the social capital that a lot of time people in poverty don't have friends or family, like we may have. When I say we, I'm referring to maybe just working class folks, okay? Because working class and lower, let me say lower middle class individuals, we do at least have family and friends, maybe a church family, or maybe, or different organizations in the community that we're a part of. We have what is considered social capital. Whereas somebody who is, in poverty and below working class poverty level may not have that social capital for somebody that they can call on and rely on. And that's part of what the Restoration House does here in Knoxville, is they open the door for these single parent families to be able to have social capital through the Restoration House and through its volunteers. So I'm grateful that I myself, I have social capital through my coworkers and, my church family, my friends, my own, blood relatives, and a slew of different, like my marketing business that I'm a part of. I have those individuals to rely on. Like I have a wealth of social capital, even during times that I feel like I'm alone and by myself and really don't have nobody. I actually do, when I think about all the wealth of individuals that I have around me every day, or that I can call and speak to every day. Like nobody would mind to speak to me or to help me if I need them. But some people don't have that at all, and that's what the restoration has done. The Restoration House is doing, is providing that for individuals who don't have that at all. You understand, some of them, or and of course I won't disclose anything about them, but some of them are not even in their own state home. That's the only thing that I was going to say, was just that some of them come from different states and they had to move here for whatever reason, and they don't have any family here at all because their family are back in another state. So, I mean, yeah, I'm just so grateful to be a part of this organization that, because I was looking for, some way to be able to give back. And that's another thing that we talked about in the group discussion after the simulation, is that how when you're in, like a lower level of poverty, you really don't even have, any energy to like even think about how you could be a help or a resource to someone else, because you are so focused on the lack thereof that you have in your own life. It's a difficult thing to even try to understand how you can be useful and help someone else. But I'm so grateful that like years ago, and I would say back in like 2008, um, I was working class, and like I still consider myself working class, poverty level, single, family, single parent family, because I'm a single mother, and I've been a single mother, but I've always at least had a job. And that was one of the other things that I mentioned in the group, that at least, even though in my example in the poverty simulation, the family that I had to play out with the other two people I was assigned with to our family, is that I did go to work every day, like the person that I played, and I do in real life go to work every day, and I have been. So and I focused on the positive aspect of that, that even though we didn't have food or anything like that, we I did go to work, and we had to use that money to pay bills. So that's usually the scenario a lot of times for individuals who suffer from class poverty, is that they still have to make it to work every day. And like I said, back in 2008, that was my situation. Like, I would just still make it to work every day. And even, and the positive thing about that is that at least I was able to get that done, in that poverty simulation where we only had 15 minutes to do certain things throughout the week, because the 15 minutes was the week. And that was the one thing that I was able to accomplish, is I was at least able to get the work. And that, I was married, so I had a spouse to help with the childcare, as far as keeping the child that we had, because the child was not old enough to like stay at home by themselves during one of the weeks that was spring break, so they couldn't go to school. But back in 2008, I was, suffering from working class poverty. Poverty also has to do with a lack in the type of mentality that you have, because you can lack a certain mentality that's necessary to thrive as well. And that is part of the poverty that, people experience, because, I have talked about that before too, with the book by John Hope Bryant, The Memo. And then also because his book discusses that how you have to have hope inside within you in order to also overcome poverty as well. But anyway, let me get back real quick, because I don't went on, and now this video's got a little bit longer than what was expected. But in 2008, I was working class, poverty. And I say working class poverty because the working class poverty I'm dealing with today in my life is slightly different, because I have a different mindset than what I had back then. Back then, it was woe is me. The focus was just totally on myself, me and my son, and how we were struggling. And I still, I started working the job that I'm working. It was right after I had graduated from college, because I had transitioned, or I had articulated from Pellissippi to UT or whatnot. And that transition, and that transfer, over to a major university after 2008 when I graduated, it was just very, very difficult. So I started working, and I didn't really have a lot of money for food. It was just like, oh my gosh, I'm saying, this is so hard. Excuse me, not having help with childcare and different things that I need. Oh my God, woe is me. Well, I had my church family, of course, at that time, and so I always had their help and support no matter what. And one lady at my church came to me, and she said, "You know what? Well, they call me Sunshine, okay, because that's my nickname." She was like, "You should help with Operation Christmas Child." And I said, okay, but because I'm not thinking, when I went to church, I wasn't always, thinking about just, myself all the time. I would help in serving my church whenever I could and whenever it was possible. So whenever they asked me to do anything, I would always, definitely do it, and I always try to hold on to my faith. So even though I felt that inside, I would still get up and go to work, go to church, go do the things that I need to do in my life to keep myself afloat, So it wasn't like completely despair, and complete despair. And it wasn't like utter hopelessness. And that's what having social capital did for me. It kept me from going into complete despair and into complete hopelessness. So, because other than that, I probably would have, okay? And some days today is a struggle as well. So, but what she did, she was like, you should do Operation Christmas Child. So I did, and she told me about it. It was like, you're going to pack these gifts, collect gifts from toys from people in our church, and once you do that, we take them to the expo center so they can be shipped out through the Billy Graham foundation, but I think the Billy Graham's son is the one that Franklin Graham is the one that is does the Samaritan Purse, because that's what Operation Christmas Child is. It's an organization through Samaritan's Purse, in which you pack gifts in a shoebox or a gift box, because we actually ordered some boxes that we would fold and put together and then get the toys and collect them. Well, I did that and I helped with that, and it was so touching and so moving that I just couldn't believe, like, because they show you the videos and different things in third world countries how they struggle, which I've seen it before. We've all seen it before, the commercials and different things like that. But when you actually become a part of helping somebody else, like, it changed my whole outlook, my whole mentality completely changed. I was just like so amazed at how it changed my whole outlook of my life. Like, it completely took me out of myself and out of the woe is me type mentality. And even though I still had down days, the down days weren't the same because of what I saw these little children suffer in these other countries. I mean, it was just, I just cannot explain it. But one thing I know is that after that, I was never the same. Like, I never looked at my struggle the same. I never ever felt the same about my struggle anymore. After, I'm about to cry right now. Oh my God. Oh my God. But then what happened after that is that it kind of went from me doing it just for my church. I mean, I was still doing it for my church the whole time, but I was able to even do it at my job. Like, I went to work and shared it with my job. And my director at my job allowed me to do that every year for 4 years straight in a row. And each year we were able to collect more boxes than what we did the previous year. And I mean, it just changed everything. And that, I will have to say, that's the beginning of my mindset when it came to poverty and suffering, is being a part of the Operation Christmas Child program and everything like that, and different things like that. So being a part of that really did change my perspective and my outlook of poverty and of a struggle here in America. Okay, because a struggle, I'm rich. Okay. I realized that I was actually rich. I wasn't poor. You understand? Because when you see poor through a really true poor person's perspective, you understand, and you're able to have the correct, appropriate perspective and approach to poverty, or what you consider poverty in your own life. Now, poverty is at all levels, regardless as to what you have, because there is, a materialistic poverty and a spiritual poverty that people can have. So you can be the wealthiest person on earth, or be the wealthiest person, be well off, than someone who doesn't have materialistic, wealth, but then go kill yourself. You were in poverty. You understand, when somebody does something like that, you got to understand they were in poverty spiritually. They were spiritually and mentally, emotionally bankrupt to go and kill themselves or commit suicide in that way. They had a despair and a feeling of hopelessness that drove them to go commit such an act when they were materially well off, in a way that somebody else would be on the outside looking in and say, if I had that wealth, or if I had this, or if I was in that situation, I would have never, I would never like commit suicide. But you just don't know. And then a lot of times people can appear materially wealthy or well off, and actually they're not. They could actually be in debt, and their home could be facing foreclosure. They could owe millions and millions of dollars, even though they appear to be well off. You understand? I mean, so, but anyway, the experience was an awesome experience. I'm gonna wrap this up because I have went on into 30 minutes now, which is not hard to do for me. but but the experience was just simply a great experience. And it like I said, there's different levels to poverty. I don't consider myself a middle class individual. I consider myself working class, upper worker class, if you want to say. I mean, I'm still a paycheck away from being in poverty, but I'm so grateful because I've experienced poverty before, that it is scary to think about it now, because I have been, kind of keeping myself afloat for so many years, that if I were to end up being, that paycheck away in another situation that I was years ago, it probably wouldn't be the same, because I now have, like, my mortgage to pay, different things like that, versus back then it was like subsidized housing. If I lost my job, I wouldn't have to pay any rent, and different things like that. But whereas now it's like, if I lost my job today, the mortgage is still due. I don't go in and just say, hey, I don't have a job anymore, and boom, my rent is back to zero. It's like, okay, no, you gonna have to get this money every month, regardless if you have a job or not, because this is a mortgage. This is not subsidized housing. So okay, so it would be scary, but it is not anything that I haven't. It would be different in that aspect, because I would have mortgages due every month regardless. But it's different because I have a whole new mindset. I have knowledge and information about how to create other means of income for myself. I would have to hustle and bustle, but I have a wealth of knowledge, and that's also a point of poverty too, is lack of knowledge, not having information about resources, ways, and means that I have now that I didn't have before. It was just, okay, go to school to get a degree, get a job. You know what I'm saying? But now it's like, okay, I can write a book. I can go ahead and invest in stock. I can start my own business. I can do this. It's so much more. So I'm wealthy. You see, I am wealthy and rich now, to the point where if I were to lose my job, like I said, it would be a temporary struggle, but I have a wealth of knowledge of everything that I can do now to be able to create a space for myself that I could go out and conquer and conquer poverty, right? And so I hope you all have enjoyed this talk. I am going to wrap it up, like I said, because I could continue to go on. I really hope that you do like, comment, share. Please subscribe to my channel. Please share this with other people. And thank you, as always, for watching The Last Word with your host, Tanisha. You have a great week and enjoy, and think about somebody who is not well off than you. Think about them. Think about ways and means that you can become a part of your community and get involved with an organization in your community that is helping someone that is that's worse off than you, or that is helping someone that has experienced what you've been through. You understand? Or that may be experiencing what you are experiencing. And that's basically what the Restoration House is doing. Because none of us are above. We come together side by side and walk with these families side by side through their experience, and just create an experience for them that is helpful, and understand that, and helping them understand that they are going through a process and a journey that can be done and can be conquered. So thank you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.